Hello there and welcome back to my YouTube channel. James here as ever for today's interesting video on is accountancy boring, or is being an accountant boring on there? Well, on the face of it, and there has always been this stigma that is an automatic yes, that accountants and accounting is generally boring. Well, if this is the first time you've actually visited my channel before, hello, my name is James. I'm an ACCA qualified accountant from the UK, and I know what you're thinking, going, hang on, is this chap actually an accountant? Well, as you can see up here, this is me in 2017 qualifying with my certificate. I mean, doesn't look too boring there, hopefully not anyway. And I can tell you now, since I started my accountancy and finance journey at university, when I turned up in my first year, all the way to qualifying as an accountant, as you saw up there, the stigma is still there in the world. And when you meet people and professionals, wherever you may be, and you tell them you're an accountant, then they say, ooh, is that a bit boring? Or how are you finding it? You having a good week? So it's okay. In this video, I'm going to run you through the ins and outs of what it's like to be an accountant, all from my experience. And if you'd like access to all of my free videos on the channel where I share all my insights and experience for free on here on YouTube, all you need to do is hit the subscribe button below. And if you find the insights in the actual video helpful, which I hope you do, and obviously brilliantly entertaining as well, I'm sure, make sure you give the video a massive like and thumbs up so that more people out there can see that accountants aren't generally boring. But we digress now because, okay, I have to set the record straight before we actually get into anything else. I will admit, from my experience to you and to YouTube and the world, there are days and there are periods when the job as an accountant is boring. Okay, I'm just going to put that out there. But let's put this in context, that have a think about every job that you've ever done on there, okay? Every job, every career, maybe you want to go and ask your parents, your colleagues, whoever you're sharing a household with, what about their career? There's always ups and downs in every career I've been in, and you have your good days and you have your bad days on it as well. When I first started my first job as an accountant, trainee accountant on a study contract, I was given a box of receipts and asked to simply go away, total up all the expenses for a given period, pop them on an Excel sheet, and then tell my manager what the total was so that we actually knew what to claim for the period. And I know what you're thinking to yourself when I tell you that. You're going, not the most exciting of tasks, James, and I'll be honest with you, it was rather tedious. There was lots of dust on all these sort of receipts on there as well. But there is a silver lining in this, because as I progressed through my examinations, actually spent more time at the company and then learnt more about my role working with other colleagues, the tasks actually started to become more engaging and challenging. And those sort of tasks that were more mundane at the start were actually given to other colleagues who were starting, first of all, that maybe they'd not even begun with it, because you just need to understand these basic principles about where the figures are actually coming from. And this really developed onto, when I progressed even further in my accounting career, actually starting to understand how I could actually add value to the clients. That was one of the main key things, and how some of the actual financial knowledge could be applied to my own life on that. So understanding about budgeting in your own world, learning about investing, what are the sort of fundamentals of finance in your life? These are all the fundamental things that, yes, you think of accountancy and being an accountant and helping out clients and producing reports and using your calculator. I don't know, it depends what your sort of stigmas are on it, I guess. But I just want to clear something else up on here that everyone always says. Always, James, follow your passion on there. Whereas in reality, the actual research out there tells us that the more competent you become in a job through working through it in time, and this could be whatever it may be, that you may just be interested in accountancy, hey, we'll try and work out from this video if it is something for you on there. But it's where you get that competency at the start, where in my journey, we were looking through those receipts and you're popping in working papers on Excel and everything. You go, oh, I'm not sure about this. Fast forward a few more years down the line, the actual drive and passion to develop and hone my skills, these are the key things that now I look at it and go, I think the actual sector and industry and the students and the professionals I work with is absolutely fantastic. It's a real change in mindset. But the reason for that is that within my actual role now as a tutor and helping out businesses wherever they may be, usually in the UK, or if I've got friends or family who are thinking about setting up businesses, this is where I can actually apply. And these are the three key main things that I think you should definitely look to see if you can actually factor them in. If you go, well, in accountancy or in whichever field I want to go into, do I have the ability to be creative? Do I have control? And can I make an impact? So take this YouTube channel, for example. I have creativity that I can put out any video around the world on any topic, and today we're looking at the sort of myths as well. So if you haven't checked out the other videos on the playlist, I'd highly recommend it. Again, all from my experience, but I have control over that as to what sort of topics we put out, and it's all based on feedback from subscribers. So if you haven't already, feel free to. And if you've got any other questions from today, I answer them all. So pop them in the comments. I'll be sure to get back to you. And then finally, that leads on to impact from there. But one little bit of advice, one nugget of information that I can share on the channel could change your whole career and life. That, who knows, we may meet one day and you'll go, hang on, James, accountants aren't very too boring. And you're all right, it's okay. But it all comes down to your mindset that when you, say for example, were to go into a role as an accounts assistant, starting off your career, it's all about how you actually approach that work. If you go in with a negative mindset to say, oh, I don't know what I'm doing here, I'm not really interested in it, versus a positive mindset and a growth mindset to say, I'm really interested to learn the ins and outs of what actually happens with money and a business and accounting clients and how a business works overall. And that's as to say to yourself, actually, why have you chosen to go and work for that company, and why have you put yourself within that role? And then this is where the sort of stigma comes from it, as to say, well, oh, they just sort of sit there behind the desk tapping away on their actual calculators. Whereas for me, yes, most jobs out there, you will probably have a desk and you will be sat behind a computer from time to time. But for me, I was really interested to get to know about how the numbers function within the business, actually dealing and helping out clients to add value to their business, understanding how businesses work themselves, how I could take my knowledge and apply it. So as for the job as a whole on now, there are always tasks, and this is where I think the actual sort of easy to boring profession comes into it. And like any job out there, there are tasks every month or every quarter or every year, whatever it may be, that need completing. So in accountancy, you might have the tax seasons being the end of January, you might have to file sets of accounts, you might have month-end reports that you need to do. I'm afraid these are just the things that if you go into the role, then you have to do it. And whether you work in, say, marketing or advertising or any role, there are going to be things every month or in a quarter or whatever it may be, that these are the bread and butter that you just have to do it. But for me, I really enjoy now just sort of flipping that accounting stigma, that it's boring, and just turning that upside down. And that's why I really enjoy, and I try my best to be as creative and honest and enthusiastic as possible to teach these accounting fundamentals that I look back on my accounting career and I go, I really struggled on that bit and I thought about it that way, and that will definitely help someone else who's got this particular exam. Or maybe I can give some advice on the actual myths that you may be, I don't know, 16, 18, you could be in your 30s, 40s, whatever it may be, and you could be having a decision right now to say, should I take that role to become an accountant? This has come up on your YouTube, and you have me here for you as well. So it's just to give you an insight as to say, well, what are the sort of fundamentals? What would I want to go into? And this is where that's the accounting profession in itself, to say, well, ask yourself, and if there's someone in the room with you now, ask them, do you know anyone boring actually at your workplace? And they could be in medicine, they could be a doctor working at a hospital, they could be a teacher, they could work in marketing, whatever it may be. I can tell you now, there are boring people, or deemed to be boring, whatever you classify boring as, and it's a case of no matter where you go and work, there'll be all these sort of different sort of types of people. And this is where, when you tell someone you're actually an accountant, so accountancy is boring, and then people who are accountants are boring. And this is another common myth, to say that if you're an accountant, you're a boring person. And just to add on this, there is absolutely no evidence behind this, okay? Let's just get some context on this, and for YouTube and everyone who's watching this as the sort of crowd and evidence on this, to say, well, accountants just like everyone else. I mean, I'm here in my office as I do, just recording away where I work on here, and everyone has sort of families and hobbies and social lives that they get stuck into. It's not just a case that people have the stigma that accountants wear dark suits and sit in a dark room and play on a calculator and to just total up numbers. And at the weekends, they sort of sit around and don't do particularly much. Now, if you follow me on Instagram or anything on those lines, here are a few sort of insights, should I say, on here as to sort of what I get up to in my spare time, where I help people, as you know, through the YouTube channel. I've run marathons, I've done triathlons on there, I love to go travelling as well, and I've got tons of different interests so that you get to know me a bit more personally, so that you can actually relate to it and go, yes, James has a hard week at work and he has all these different things going on. But it's a case of many sort of successful people in accounting, no matter what sort of sector you're actually in, if you start in industry or practice, or you may be starting as an accounts assistant, or you're doing your AAT, or you're fresh out of school or college. What happens, and I find from my experience, just to share it with you, is that lots of people get that accounting knowledge and experience, and they move into a variety of other careers and areas that, if they have an interest, or they've maybe done a particular sport for the majority of their life. So, like we said earlier, they're really competent in it. It could be that in their spare time they might make bookmarkers, or they actually make beer or something like that, that is what they have a passion for. I read about this in articles out there, that they take their skills as being an accountant and then transfer it into what they really, really like and they're competent with, and they harness those skills to benefit them and go into other areas. So this is because of the grounding in that analysis and the understanding and problem solving, and then the soft skills of communication that accounting training gives you through the exams, the professional qualifications, and all that experience bundled into one, that it gives you so much in your armoury that you can apply into so many different areas of your life, whether that be helping yourself out with taxes or setting up your own business. And then you'll be, this is where we get onto the honest part now, as to once you get qualified, it's amazing how many people want to come up to you and ask for advice on there. So it may just be a case of, oh, you're an accountant, James, what do you know about starting a business? Or what's all this national insurance or tax or something? What does this all mean? And then the shoe is on the other foot, because you have the core knowledge and understanding on there. Obviously, if you're careful with what you say to people and all that sort of jazz, and then this is not financial advice here or anything like that, but it's that competency to say, well, you can't have one side to say that accounting is boring and accountants are boring, versus, well, they have credible knowledge, professional qualifications, and they're highly valued within businesses as well. So I know that from my experience on there. But as we said earlier, no matter what profession you go into, there will always be potentially, or whatever you deem to be, boring people within there. If they're maybe quite reserved in what they do, or not very entertaining, whatever it may be, they'll always be out there. And for the record of YouTube on there, no matter whichever, if I go out into town, I go out for a drink, or if you go out on a date or something and you tell someone I'm an accountant, I'm pretty sure it will still be there in years and years to come. But the whole point of the video is to say, well, yes, it will be there in the future. Hopefully that sort of myth and the stigma will start to subside, but I just don't want it to be one of those things that will put you off to say, well, I'm going to be in a dark room for the rest of my career doing nothing. Not a chance. Accountancy can be a massive opportunity that you can take to travel the world, set up your own business, actually be more active on it, maybe visiting clients. Again, there will be the years of actually underpinning that financial knowledge, but trust me, overall, this is not a boring profession, and I actually don't find that I've met particularly too many, as you may seem as boring people, from my career overall. So I just wanted to get that out there for YouTube, for the record, and of course for your benefit, because it could be the little nugget of information that could make you make the decision of, yes, James, I want to go into accounting, or maybe, no, I don't. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, with the little insights and sort of showcasing my world as well, make sure you give it a massive like and thumbs up so that more accounting students out there can actually see that it isn't boring at all. I'd really appreciate it. So thank you as ever for all the support for the channel. And if you'd like access to all my uploads, all my free videos, you know what you've got to do. Just simply hit the subscribe button below and you get access to all of them. If you have any questions or comments or anything on those lines, feel free to drop me a comment below. More than happy to help. And that little nugget of advice, whatever sort of career aspect you're maybe thinking about or starting out, I'll be more than happy to help. And as ever, feel free to share it along with all the other free videos on the channel. That's the whole point of why I set it up. And we'll be going through more of these sort of myths and debugging them on the channel as well. As a final treat, just to reclassify that accountants are definitely not boring, what I've done for you as a final treat is I've left a couple of videos at the end that I'd highly recommend you click on one of them. They're definitely going to help from my experience and insights on the channel that could take you down that different avenue or to even pass your next accounting exam. Who knows? Well, as always, on that bombshell, I'll see you next time. Cheers!